Braves. I'm Trevor Peitzman, Bosco class of 2019 and 4th class midshipman at the United States Naval Academy. Although I cannot personally remember the events of 9/11, I remember clearly what my dad told me about that day. I was almost 1 year old at the time, and the first thought through my dad's head was, what kind of a world am I bringing my son into? Many of you may not even have been alive on the day of 9/11, but seeing these images replayed before you today should give you pause and allow you to consider just how fortunate we all are to live in the country we do. Fighting to prevent another 9/11 stands in my mind as a major reason why I feel called to serve this nation, protect its people. Remember, freedom is not free. Never forget, and go Braves.
To my fellow Braves, greetings from Washington, D.C. My name is Major Brandon Archuleta, and I'm a U.S. Army officer currently assigned to the Pentagon. I want to share with you today just a few thoughts about my experience on 9/11 and service and sacrifice that so many Americans have made thereafter. So first and foremost, I graduated from St. John Bosco in 2001 and attended the United States Military Academy Preparatory School at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey immediately after graduation, before heading off to West Point the year after. And so on September 11, 2001, my classmates and I were taking exams, and I was in an exam when the first plane struck the first tower. I came out of class, there was a lot of clamoring in the hallways and some confusion, and I went to the day room where all of my classmates and I had gathered to watch the news feed to understand whether or not this was an attack or perhaps just an accident with a commuter plane, as many speculated early on that morning. And we watched in horror as the second plane struck the second tower, and we immediately knew that this was no accident. What we didn't know at the time was that planes were bound for the U.S. Capitol and the Pentagon. Of course, the plane struck the Pentagon and killed many in the E-ring of the Pentagon, actually struck the Army section of the Pentagon. And then, of course, another plane went down in a field in Pennsylvania. While we knew that something had changed and that America might be going to war, what we didn't quite understand was just how long we'd be at war and how that would affect all of us, still years from graduating from West Point and commissioning into the Army. Well, over the next several years, I went on to attend the U.S. Military Academy at West Point and graduated in 2006. And soon thereafter, I went to Iraq to serve as a platoon leader in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom from 2007 to 2008. And then in Afghanistan, in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, as a company commander from 2009 to 2010. And during my time overseas leading soldiers, I would often reflect on a letter that John Adams wrote to Abigail Adams that I think is apropos of not just my public service and calling, but perhaps it'll resonate with some of you. Here I paraphrase. John Adams writes that I must study politics and war so that my sons have the liberty to study mathematics and philosophy. They must study mathematics and philosophy so that one day their sons have the right to study arts, poetry, and the humanities. And as a father of twin boys, I often ask myself, what am I doing to ensure that they're going to live a better life than I've had? And as a consequence, I've dedicated my life to not just the study, but the practice of war and politics. After I left Afghanistan, the Army sent me to graduate school to earn a PhD in government. I returned to West Point and taught American politics, public policy, and foreign policy in the Department of Social Sciences. And now I'm a strategic planner assigned to the Pentagon and the Department of the Army. And my purpose here in thinking about my own service and the sacrifices I've made on behalf of my country and so many of the sacrifices that have been laid on the altar of freedom in the years since 9/11. I challenge you to think about your own call to serve. I challenge you to think about your own willingness to sacrifice for others and encourage you to a lifetime of public service, no matter what it might be. But it's a fulfilling one, and it's a meaningful one in this post 9/11 era that we're all living through. And so, while I know so many of you were not born on September 11, 2001, or had yet to be born, I thank you for thinking of us who have served and sacrificed in the years since on this day. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And go Braves. Thanks.